Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so this is a continuation of our geometry lesson. Ready? Of course. All right, this is a continuation of our geometry lesson. And we're going to continue to work on circles. Okay, so first we're going to break the circles down. So our circles are obviously round, and they have a center point, and the distance from the center of a circle halfway across is called the radius. So the distance from the center halfway across the circle. The distance all the way across the circle is called the diameter. And it always goes through the center. This value is also twice the length of the radius. In other words, it takes two radiuses. So if you think about it, it takes two radiuses to make one diameter. Okay? So, there are two things we need to know about circles. Two major things. When we're looking at circles, well, two major things that we need to know about circles. These are the two beginning things that we learn about circles. The distance around the outside of a circle. This distance. Okay? This distance around the outside. And the important word here is outside of the circle is called the circumference. Now, some mathematicians a long time ago did a lot of work and experiments to figure this all out, and they came up with a value called pi. And basically what they did was they took a lot of different size circles and they measured the outside of these different size circles, and they found that there was a constant value that was common to every single circle no matter how big it was. And that value is called pi. And we write pi with a symbol that looks like this. And we round pi off to 3 digits. That is 3.14. Now, at some point, it'd be really cool to repeat that by taking a bunch of circles and using a ruler or like a measuring tape and measuring a bunch of circles and figuring for pi. It's a really cool experiment to do. In science class, we do this. But just take my word for it for now. The value for pi is rounded off and averages out over time. When you measure a whole lot of circles, there's a constant that we find that always works with every circle, and it is this value right here. Okay, so anytime we work with circles, we will always have to use pi. Okay, so also with all the experiments that were done with circles, we figured out that when we're finding the value of a circumference, that's the distance around, there's two formulas that we can use. One of the formulas looks like this. Circumference is always either 2 times the radius. So remember, the radius was the value that went halfway across. So we need 2 of those. And we always put pi next to the 2. And then we put the radius value out to the outside. So we need 2 of these radiuses times this constant value pi. Or we say pi, for some reason we always write pi first, times the diameter. Now the reason this works is if we remember from earlier, the diameter, I'm going to write it over here, the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Remember, we need 2 radiuses to make one whole diameter. See, this R and this R together, they make up a diameter. Okay? Because remember, the diameter is the distance all the way across the circle. A radius is the distance halfway across the circle. So if we take 1/2 and put another half together it makes up the whole distance across. So half is a radius, another half is another radius, and then the whole distance across is the diameter. So that's why you get 2 different formulas. So you have 2 times the radius times pi for the circumference, or you would have diameter times pi for the circumference. It's the exact same values actually being used, but depending on what information is given to you in the problem, that will determine which one of these formulas is easier to use. So let's say you're doing a problem and they give you the radius, then it makes more sense to use the first formula. If they give you a problem and they give you the diameter, then it makes more sense to use the diameter as your problem. So, and I'm going to write some homework for you for circumference problems on this board over here. Okay, so give me just a second to write a couple of homework problems out. Homework. These will be strictly circumference homework. All of these will be find their circumference. All right, that will be the homework, and I'm going to work out 2 examples over here for circumference. Hope you give it a couple seconds on the homework. Make sure you focus on the homework for a few seconds so that that can be written down while I am getting started to write up a couple examples over here. So they can pause and copy that homework down. So focus on homework for just a couple seconds while I'm getting started over here. All right, so my first example problem is going to have a radius of 10 inches. And this is a circumference problem, okay? So with a radius of 10 inches, I am going to actually draw this. So I'm going to draw a circle, and I'm going to put my center vertex, and I'm going to draw my radius line, and I'm going to write 10 inches in here, okay? And then I'm going to figure out which formula do I need. So my two formulas are circumference equals 2 pi r, or circumference is equal to pi times diameter. Okay? One moment. To look over this. Okay, so we got to figure out which one of these two formulas we need. So, because it's a radius problem, I'm going to say we need this formula here. So, I'm going to say circumference is equal to 2 times pi times 10 inches. Okay? Now, most of the modern day math allows us to leave this pi in symbol form. So my answer will be 20 pi inches. Okay? That is my final answer for that problem. Pretty simple. Okay? Make sure we look at the board so we get that final work. Okay? Now let's do a different example. I'm going to switch colors. And let's do example 2. Let's do one for diameter of 5 centimeters. Now if we go back up here and look at our formulas, again, I have two formulas I could use. I could use circumference is equal to 2 pi r, or I could use circumference is equal to pi times diameter. I'm going to draw this out over here. Now remember, diameter goes all the way across. So in this case, from end to end, I have 5 centimeters. From here to here, okay? I'm not the best artist in the world, but just imagine that it's going all the way across. So for circumference, I'm going to use the second formula because I have a diameter. So my formula would be circumference is equal to pi times diameter. So circumference is equal to pi times 5 centimeters. And in modern math, we're allowed to keep the symbol of pi, so we just write 5 pi centimeters as my answer. Okay? And that will be my final answer. Make sure we're focused on our board with the answer. Okay? And that will conclude our lesson for circumference of circles. Let's focus on our homework one more time. Let's spend about 5 seconds on the homework so we make sure that we know what the homework is. Okay, and stop.